I'm Jacob Bynum. This is Rifles Only. We're located in Kingsville, Texas. We're down about 90 miles from the border, hour south of Corpus Christi, 2 hours south of San Antonio. This is, I grew up here. This is my home. I've lived in a couple of different places, but I've been here, just love it here. My father started me hunting at a very early age, whether it was white-tailed deer, dove, went fishing as well. We did a lot of that growing up. I started to really get into this, the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and the first thing that Rifles Only did was load development. It was a lot of fun. That was how it started. I was just shooting long range on my own, mainly 300 Win Mag, 338 Lapua, back before it was 338 Lapua. Went around, won a few competitions, a few, and had fun with it, and then it's just taken off from there. We have 500 acres here. We're only using 165 of it. Our tower that's out here, we can go from pretty much muzzle contact out to 1,000 yards. We have another range that goes out to 1,500, but we also have a place in Colorado, in northern Colorado, that we train, also New Hampshire, and so we train in other places too. We're getting ready to leave. We'll be in Colorado this summer, Michigan, Minnesota, Arizona, several places that we're going out to do courses. We have a good time. We've trained in other countries too, Estonia, Finland, Australia. It's been really good. I have a really good relationship with the Australian Army, so we've trained with those guys quite a bit. You were really hot potatoes if you were shooting a Remington 700, 308 PSS rifle, with the Leupold, Vari X3, 3.5 to 10. I mean, that was it. And now everything's changed. That was a great gun. I never ran across one of those Remington 700s that wouldn't shoot 3/4 of an inch if you drove the rifle right. But the problem with them was they just weren't very ergonomic. There weren't any adjustments on it for length of pull or anything like that. Cheek pieces, bipod options were just this one little nut on the bottom that you hook your bipod to. Before that, we were shooting off bags. Just basically put your pack down and shoot off of that. But now the chassis that are coming through, there's a bunch of them. I'm not even going to name them, but they're just multi-adjustable. So they're so much more ergonomic, so much more easy to shoot. Then we're starting to see those smaller calibers come in. The 6.5 Creedmoor, the 6mm, the 6 GT. There's a 22 GT out here at the competition this weekend. I'm dying to get my hands on and see how that one works. But the calibers have changed quite a bit, and the ergonomics of the rifle has changed quite a bit. Optics, the optics. I don't know, I think now it's very, very difficult to find a bad one. You have to work hard to find a bad one. Leupold, Vortex, the Schmidt & Bender's still out there, Hensoldt, and you have so many options from very low priced, get into this, or, you can spend as much as you want. So we've seen the product availability just really, really get a lot higher. The thing about it is the fundamentals of marksmanship. People try to dress them up and, call them a lot of different things, but it's still going to be the fundamentals of marksmanship. There's no getting around it. I mean, I always say in my classes, there was one time this guy who had a rock and he was trying to hit a rabbit. And he figured that if he put his feet like this and his arms like this, he would be better. Well, that's the birth of fundamentals, whenever we're wearing a loincloth. And it goes, there's fundamentals in every sport. There's fundamentals in everything you do. Fundamentals in football, basketball, and shooting is no different. If you follow those fundamentals, it's like baking a cake. You follow those fundamentals as they go up, and you increase your chance for success. And it's like we've said it many, many times. What is your basic class? It's the fundamentals. What's your advanced class? The fundamentals faster. So in different places, different positions, different shooting areas, uphill, downhill, sitting, kneeling, standing, prone, alternates, all of these things. But it's always going to come back to that common denominator, which is the fundamentals of marksmanship. Texas in general has a very robust community. South Texas is really good. You have people from all different walks of life. We have, the truck drivers, doctors, lawyers, and of course we have, police officers here today that are, regional. But it's not just here. I think all of the community is growing. Texas is really strong in Central Texas and North Texas. I spent some time out in Arizona, very strong community there too. Northern California, Minnesota, Michigan, I mean, it's growing. It's just a good community. For the most part, everyone in here is just out to have a good time. There's a few of you really, die-hard, hardcore, points at any cost. But for the most part, I walk out here, we're doing a competition. I guess the guy that came the furthest, we're in the south tip of Texas, and he came all the way from Alaska and, from every other place. And I walk out here while they're doing this, and what I'm looking for is smiles, and that's what I'm seeing. They're having a good time with it and enjoying it, and they're being safe and having fun. I don't want this to sound self-serving or anything else, but get some training, get some training first. We do We, as well as a lot of other people, are out there going out and teaching people the fundamentals of marksmanship, how to handle their weapons, how to set up their guns and everything else, but then go do it. There's so many products out there now. Again, as in anything else, you can spend as much money as you want, but you can get into this relatively cheap, just to, like you say, dip your toes in it and see if you like it, and then if you like it, just continue to grow with it. But main thing is just to go out and do it. Go out and do it and have a good time. I guarantee you, when in the beginning you were here, said, who hasn't been here before? Who's their first match? And they raise your hand. I say, well, anybody who doesn't have their hand raised, they'll be happy to answer any question for you. They'll help you through it and everything else, which is so good about the shooting community. Everybody's willing to help that new shooter come on and help them out with their wind and help them out with their holes, and it's just fantastic. It's a really good community.